August 2005. Life is marching on. My time with frame art galleries as a picture framer is coming to an end very, very soon, but I'm still reading plenty of interesting books. So let's jump right into that. The first book that I read in August of 2005, some nonfiction, Superheroes and Philosophy, Truth, Justice, and the Socratic Way, edited by Tom Morris and Matt Morris, this is Open Court, part of their pop culture and philosophy library. And this one uses superheroes, uh, non specific. So DC, Marvel, there might be a few others. I don't recall. I think it's primarily DC and Marvel. So when I say non-specific, I mean there are books that are just Batman and philosophy or X-Men and philosophy. This is any superhero they choose to talk about. So you've got things, as usual, what they do, it's a bunch of essays, and they either use philosophy to look at the subject matter, in this case superheroes, or use superheroes to illustrate different philosophies, philosophical ideas. So you've got things like superhero revisionism in Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns, God, the Devil, and Matt Murdock, Myth, Morality, and the Women of the X-Men, or Barbara Gordon and Moral Perfectionism. There was one here I really liked. Oh, with great power comes great responsibility on the moral duties of the super powerful and superheroic. Superman and Kingdom Come, which was a miniseries. The surprise of philosophical theology. Questions of identity. Is the Hulk the same person as Bruce Banner? So you can see all sorts of different subject matter, philosophically speaking. Using pop culture, the pop culture of superheroes specifically, obviously, to look at these things. I don't recall if it was this book or possibly X-Men of Philosophy, but I do specifically remember an example they gave about responsibility, and I don't remember the philosophical idea, but the illustration they used was Jean Grey, which is why it could be in here, but it could be also in X-Men of Philosophy. A busload of children is going to careen off a cliff and kill 30 kids and the driver. Jean Grey has the power to stop it, but they've just finished a battle with Magneto. She's down to her last legs. She'd use basically the last bit of her power to stop this bus and save these 31 people, but it will kill her. Is her responsibility to, in the now, immediately save those 31 people, even though it will kill her, or should she let those 31 people die because by living, she will theoretically save a larger number of people in the future? And it digs into that idea. And I love this stuff. So, Superheroes and Philosophy, edited by Tom Morris and Matt Morris. I really dig this stuff. Fun stuff. Next up, we have Jason X by Pat Cadigan. This is a novelization of the movie Jason X, which I'm a fan of. I think more people are a fan of it than not, generally speaking. Even though I occasionally hear people talk about how crappy it is, I hear more people defending it. If there's anybody that doesn't know, essentially Jason from Friday the 13th is cryogenically frozen and is thawed out way in the future. And then he's on a spaceship going nuts, and spoilers, ends up being upgraded by some nanobots. I really enjoy the movie. It's fun. It's got some great kills, a couple of great kills, and it's Pat Cadigan, award-winning, I believe, science fiction author. Does a lot of novelizations and things, media tie-ins and stuff, and does a fine job. Jason X. I really wish I still had this book. You're going to hear that again soon, a couple of times. But next up, we have Fantastic Four Warzone by Greg Cox. And in this book, the Fantastic Four aren't people's favorites in the world, the Marvel Universe. The public aren't exactly enamored with the Fantastic Four at this point, I believe. But these portals are opening up in New York from the negative zone, and so creatures from the negative zone are invading the world. Fantastic Four has to figure out what's going on. I believe like a couple of them stay on Earth to fight, and a couple of them go into the negative zone to figure out what's going on. So some fine Fantastic Four action. I like the Fantastic Four. They've been poorly written at times, but at least the stuff that I've read, I think I've read more of the good stuff than bad. So a good writer can make a good story with characters like the Fantastic Four. I know people that just dismiss them outright, but I think it all depends on the writer, comic book wise and book wise. Greg Cox does a fine job. Plus, I like the negative zone. I don't recall if Annihilus, I assume Annihilus is in this. Annihilus is a character that I love, especially aesthetically speaking. Beautiful design. Fantastic Four, Warzone, Greg Cox. Excuse me. Next up, the only other book that I have in my possession at this time, Goon by Edward Lee and John Palin. Never sure how you pronounce that. This is from Overlook Connection Press. It's an illustrated edition, and this is about a wrestler, Goon, and some horrible, horrible things that are happening. I do want to read one little bit from the inside cover. So first of all, it says, 6'9" and 400 pounds, hailing from parts unknown, he is the one-man walking gore machine of the Deep South Wrestling Conference, and his name is Goon. So there's a police captain that's after him, but then it says, this is terrible, terrible, terrible. Investigative reporter Melinda Pierce will do anything to find out. Previous to that, it's talking about murders and rapes and stuff. Is it just a coincidence, or do all the victims have something in common? Investigative reporter Melinda Pierce will do anything to find out by offering herself up as a sexual spittoon in order to infiltrate the arcane and lust-drenched warrens of backstage wrestling. There, in malodorous locker rooms and unsavory motels, she partakes in carnal forays so gross, so downright nasty, that they'd make Linda Lovelace bend over and puke. How could you not want to read something like that? This was still early in my foray into extreme horror, Edward Lee and stuff. And so this is another one that just blew my mind with the types of things that happen in this book. If you're an Edward Lee fan and you haven't read it, you absolutely have to read this. If you want to dip your toe, well, I was going to say if you want to dip your toe into extreme horror, but this isn't this is jumping into the deep end, I think. But so much fun. Goon by Edward Lee and John Palin, or Palin, however you say that name. Next up, we have The Superhero Handbook by Michael Powell. And this is similar to books I've talked about in previous videos, mainly about supervillains. This is a tongue-in-cheek how to be a superhero, picking your superhero identity, picking a sidekick if you want a sidekick, how to keep your identity and your secret identity separate and secret, picking a nemesis, that kind of stuff. Just a very light-hearted look at how to become a superhero. The Superhero Handbook, Michael Powell. Book number 2 that I really, really wish I had, because they're really, really expensive, for someone like me anyway, on the secondary market. This is A Nightmare on Elm Street, Suffer the Children by David Bishop. This is the first of the new line of original novels, and it was a line that included Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and Final Destination. I've already read one of the Final Destination ones, talked about that in a past video. Nightmare on Elm Street, Suffer the Children by David Bishop, I believe takes place after Freddy vs. Jason, and we have 6 teens that are going to be test subjects for a new sleep drug, and it basically, this drug allows them to meet in dreams, like meet up in dreams, and of course they're going to have to fight Freddy Krueger. Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, I absolutely love. Number 2, number 3, good stuff. After that, I know some people love 4, but I think that's where things start going downhill until Wes Craven's New Nightmare. But it's not my favorite of the classic slashers. But I do enjoy it, as long as, man, when they made Freddy Krueger just a jokester, things went haywire. The first movie, man, he is so frightening. And but Nightmare on Elm Street, Suffer the Children, David Bishop. Really, really wish I still had that book. Then, for something completely different, we have Cassandra French's Finishing School for Boys by Eric Garcia. Eric Garcia, you know what? I don't want to misspeak. So I just want to double check. I should have done this ahead of time. You can watch me looking at my computer while I do this. Eric Garcia, yes. I just wanted to make sure. He's the author of the Anonymous Rex books about a dinosaur private detective. Matchstick Men. It's a great book made into a movie that I've never seen. And then Cassandra French's Finishing School for Boys. Cassandra French is a lawyer for a movie studio. And she can never seem to find a decent guy. They all have problems. They all have issues. And so she essentially kidnaps men and keeps them in her basement and trains them to be better men. But then something happens. Things get a little haywire. I found this very, very entertaining. I've liked everything that I've read by Eric Garcia, which is basically, I think, only 5 books. 3 Anonymous Rex books, Matchstick Men, and then this. But I've enjoyed them all. He's got a nice, smooth writing style. Can be very funny. And this one, quite enjoyable, in my opinion. Cassandra French's Finishing School for Boys. Next up, another book I really, really, really wish I still had, because it's expensive on the secondary market. Friday the 13th, Church of the Divine Psychopath by Scott Phillips. Now, this is the first of the original Friday the 13th books in this series. And I forgot, I said Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and Final Destination. There were also original Jason X books. After the Jason X novelization came out, they continued the Jason X story. But anyway, this is Friday the 13th, Church of the Divine Psychopath by Scott Phillips. And basically, Jason is, I don't remember exactly when this takes place in the movie continuity, but Jason is resurrected and being worshipped by a cult. And I believe the National Guard or the military in some form comes in to take on that cult. So you've got almost a Waco, Texas kind of thing going on with Jason in the middle. Now, Friday the 13th is my favorite franchise of these big franchises, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, even Hellraiser. Although Hellraiser, like the original Hellraiser, is subjectively speaking, objectively, I always get the two confused. Objectively is the best, highest quality movie. Some might say Halloween, but Friday the 13th is my favorite of the slasher series. My favorite of the classic modern killers. So really enjoyed the book. Really wish I still had all the books in this series. Friday the 13th, Church of the Divine Psychopath by Scott Phillips. The penultimate book for August of 2005 is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Wicked Willow, Book 1, The Darkening by Yvonne Navarro. And this is a kind of a what-if story, an alternate history kind of story. So, spoilers if you haven't seen the end of season 6 of Buffy. But basically what happens, so Buffy, her best friend is Willow. Willow is a witch. Willow has a girlfriend, or had a girlfriend, named Tara. Some stuff goes down in season 6. Tara breaks up with Willow. And then, towards the end of the season, Willow and Tara are getting back together. And then Tara is manslaughtered. Murdered? She wasn't the target. She dies right in front of... She's shot to death right in front of Willow. Willow becomes evil. She hunts down the guy that killed her. Warren. Hunts down Warren. Flays him alive. And then burns him up. Murders him. Straight up murders him. In the TV show, I think Buffy and Xander show up. Willow says 1 down, 2 to go, and takes off. In this, we start right with her flaying and murdering Warren. Buffy and Xander show up. Before Willow says 1 down, 2 to go, there's this weird, she gets this weird feeling. This weirdness happens. And now we're off on a tangent. The story does not follow what happened. Willow's not going to get redeemed. Spoilers again. Willow's redeemed by the end of season 6. Right? I have the right number of seasons, don't I? Season 4 is college. Season 5 is Dawn. Season 6 ends with Willow. Yes, okay. And then season 7 is other stuff. Anyway, so now Willow is going to start her own coven, evil coven of witches, and she's trying to find a way to bring Tara back to life. That's what's going on in this book. Buffy the Vampire, and regular viewers know how much I love alternate history stories, alternate versions of characters. What If, the Marvel Comics, What If being, to me, a fantastic series of comics because it shows us that if one little thing changed, what happens? So Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Wicked Willow, Book 1, The Darkening, Yvonne Navarro. The last book that I read in August of 2005 was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Wicked Willow, Book 2, Shattered Twilight by Yvonne Navarro. Spoilers. Guess what the first book of September 2005 is going to be? Anyway, this is a continuation of the story. Some things happened in the previous book that set up. I mean, I'm being so vague, just in case anybody is going to go out and find these and read them. I don't want to give too much away. But Willow's coven is upset with Willow based on some actions she took in the first book. So now Willow needs to find a way to redeem herself with the coven while still, trying to avoid the Scoobies, Buffy and the Scoobs, who are still trying to stop/save Willow, and Willow still wants to bring Tara back. So just continuation of this alternate timeline at the end of season 6 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And that's it. That's everything that I read in August of 2005. Excuse me. Question for this video: what horror movie franchise would you like to see essentially continue or expand in original novels? Seems like a simple enough question, I suppose. For me, I don't know, because a lot of them have been continued. I don't know that Halloween really has, but obviously there have been a few books in the franchises I've already named: Friday the 13th, Jason X, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Final Destination. From one of those, generally I'd say Friday the 13th, except that there's already so much material that maybe I'd go Jason X, because there's only the one movie and there's just a few books. Final Destination might get samey. A lot of these might get samey. But putting those aside, the first thing that came to mind for me was Hellraiser. We've got the original novel, Hellbound Heart. There is an anthology. I think it's just called Hellbound Hearts, of stories that take place in that universe. And then there's the Scarlet Gospel, which I have not read yet. And there is the Sherlock Holmes one. Sherlock Holmes and the Servants of Hell, I think it's called. Fantastic book. So, and there's tons of comic book stuff. But I think it would be interesting to see a bunch of original novels that explore the Cenobites, the different Cenobites. We could explore the histories of the different Cenobites. We could explore they could explore the histories of, or the stories of other configurations. I mean, they did all sorts of stuff in the comic books. I think there's a whole wide world of stories that could be told. Trying to think of any modern franchises, but nothing in particular comes to mind. I mean, if you could say the Conjuring universe, but you've already got all the non-fiction Ed and Lorraine Warren books, and I have all 9 of them. And I'm trying to think of modern. I have never seen a Paranormal Activity movie. I've never seen a Insidious movie. I don't know that Saw would make a good series of books, but maybe. What am I forgetting? I don't know. So I guess my answer is Hellraiser. I'm going to go with that. I think that's a big, wide world. Although I would love to see it's been done before, I think a few times, probably more than a few, just I don't know about it. New stories about the classic Universal monsters. It's, as I said, it has been done. Charles Grant has some books. He's got like a Wolfman book, a mummy book, and a vampire book. I think those are the 3. And there have been plenty. There's Ultimate Frankenstein, Ultimate Dracula, Ultimate Werewolf anthologies. But some new novels that actually follow the continuity, the canon of the old Universal monsters, including Creature from the Black Lagoon. That would be cool as well. But what about you? What horror franchise movies or movie franchises? Oh, I just happened to look over here. Chucky. Would it be interesting to have Child's Play novels? I don't know. Let me know. What movie franchises would you like to see continued and expanded upon in novels? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, I'll have links for my Instagram and Bluesky in the description below. And that's all I have for you this week. So until next week, read more books.